CBS Sports HQ alongside Joe Musso. I am Hakeem Dermish. Monster show on tap. We'll break down what went down at the NBA trade deadline. NBA champ P.J. Tucker joins the program. That's coming up. We're kicking off with NFL honors.
Yeah, it's individual awards for the ultimate team game. No one man walks that stage alone, rather lifted by those that have shared in the struggle. But you know how it goes. Only one MVP. That honor belongs to Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford this season. The 37-year-old becomes the oldest first-time winner of the award, and what a season it was. More than 4,700 passing yards, 47 touchdowns, and just 8 interceptions. And the man, he's coming back for more. In his acceptance speech, Stafford confirmed he'll be back with the Rams next season, putting to rest any retirement speculation. But you could speculate on this, just one first-place vote separating he and next closest in Drake May. And for instant reaction, we say hello to CBS NFL analyst Emory Hunt. Emory, you and I, we've sat and waxed poetic about this time and again before. The criteria for MVP, it does seem a moving target. A year ago, it's capital V value. This year feels a little bit more like best player we saw play. What do you make of the vote, the single first place vote between them, and did the voters get it right?
It's a great layered question, Joe. I'd say for the first part, what I think of the vote, they got it right. Matthew Stafford played the best all season long in some of the best games that we've seen all season long. Matthew Stafford has done a really good job. I know we kind of joked at some point during the season about the 1-yard touchdown passes, but at the end of the day, he led the league in that category, led the league in yards, and did it in an emphatic way, and we saw him win some high leverage games where they won because of Matthew Stafford and not in spite of Matthew Stafford. Now, the closeness of the vote, totally thought that was legitimate because Drake May played some really good football considering this is his second season, considering what the Patriots were last year, and a lot of the questions that we kind of thought coming in. Yeah, they added a lot of talent, but they did a great job, and he did a great job as well leading from the front in that regard. But the playoffs, I know this is not a playoff award, that kind of, I thought lost him this race and how some of those wins were about the defense more so than Drake May. Now, to the best part of this argument, this question, you're talking about the closeness of the vote and that first place vote that separates them. Who on God's green earth voted for Justin Herbert? That one lonely vote cost Drake May potentially an MVP vote. Now, Josh Allen got 2 votes, 2 first place votes. I'm still trying to figure out that part as well, more so than James Cook. But the Herbert vote is the difference between a Drake May MVP going into the biggest game or Matthew Stafford finishing a very close second, and we're having a completely different conversation.
Yeah, maybe some fuel to the fire. Not that any more is needed for Drake May this weekend with the Super Bowl out in front of him, but this is a career-defining moment in some ways for the 37-year-old who in season 17 gets this ultimate honor, hadn't finished in the top 5 in MVP voting, in his career prior to this, Emory. So with that, I ask you, what does this mean to the resume of Matthew Stafford? Because also on this night, we see enshrinement into the Hall of Fame, and it's easy to draw one to the other.
Right, and he played in the era with Drew Brees, and he played actually in a playoff game against Drew Brees when he was with the Detroit Lions. So this puts him in the conversation because when you think about who else he played with that's going to retire at some point and be in this conversation is Russell Wilson. But he has an MVP. They both have Super Bowl victories. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. Matthew Stafford has only gotten to 1. And when you look at other guys that have won MVPs that have been to Super Bowls, you look at Boomer Esiason, you look at Jim Plunkett, who got to 2 Super Bowls, won one with the Raiders. So he's in the conversation now. And that's why I thought had he gotten to the Super Bowl again, this would have put him almost into the Hall of Fame. But right now he's in this category. He's going to finish with a gang of yards. I know some people will poke holes in that, saying that, well, look at the era he played in. That's why he has yards. So does Eli Manning. And the reason why I'm tap dancing around, is he a lock or is he not? Because we're just off the hills of Bill Belichick not getting in on first ballot. So who knows what it takes to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But Matthew Stafford with this MVP and how he has closed out the back end of his career, he is definitely in that conversation right there with Russell Wilson.
And nothing a sure thing when it comes to the Hall of Fame at this point, but we sure do know this. Matthew Stafford is our MVP in one of the closest votes we've ever seen. The 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame class also announced on Thursday night, and the Legends Club grows by 5. Larry Fitzgerald headed to Canton as a first ballot Hall of Famer. His 492 receiving yards, second only all-time to Jerry Rice. The aforementioned Drew Brees' call to the Hall comes in year one of eligibility as well. One of the finest defenders to ever play the middle in Luke Kuechly, forever immortalized. Superman Roger Craig getting the call appropriately in a San Fran celebration. And it's the leg of Adam Vinatieri, also headed to Canton. Emory Hunt back in the mix with reaction. I do want to pull at a couple of these strings. And Emory, I know what it means to the city. I know what it means to you. Give us an idea of what this moment means to Drew Brees and all that he meant to the city of New Orleans.
Man, every time Drew Brees was at quarterback for the New Orleans Saints in that rebirth of, the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, you felt like the Saints had a legitimate chance to win games. The last time the Saints fans had that feeling was during the Dome Patrol era of like 86 to 92. But they never really won a playoff game. Drew Brees gets there in 05 and in 06, and everything after that, or even that season, they went to the NFC Championship game, lost to your Chicago Bears. You always thought Drew Brees and the Saints had a chance to get back to that big game and win it. They did it in 09. You thought they had a chance to do it every year. And the fact that he was a castaway in San Diego at the time, and I remember coming out of college and me and my homeboy talking about this, it's like, man, why did he draft Phillip Rivers? Brees wasn't a problem. They just need help around him. He goes, has that great couple of seasons with San Diego, then he gets hurt. He goes to New Orleans, and then boom, he has his Hall of Fame career. So even his career didn't start how you thought it was going to end up, but I'm glad he had that long stretch of success along with Sean Payton in New Orleans, because what he did for the city, what he did for that football team, what he did for that franchise, he made it a premier place for football to be played.
Diminutive in his stature, and was told he'd never be able to spin it the same way again after shoulder injury, and here he is, forever enshrined, a bust in Canton, Ohio. One other I want your thought on here as well. We do have a couple other thought experiments to go through, but let's keep the celebration rolling. Larry Fitz is really a guy who we knew was headed here. We knew he was headed here in the minimum, but he is the ultimate let your play do the talking guy. So say something here on behalf of Larry Fitzgerald and what he accomplished over those years, the distinctions he was able to put together, and when you look up amassing the numbers that he did.
There's only three people in my shoulda had the Heisman Hall of Fame. Is Rocket Ismail, is Larry Fitzgerald, and is Marshall Faulk. And Larry Fitzgerald hit the ground running right away. You talk about someone that was an instant impact player. And crazy enough, opposite of him was another great receiver in Anquan Bolden, and he was also out there doing his thing, like you said, in a quiet manner, consistently over the course of a career. He was, in my opinion, and how he went about his play, he was this era's version of Herman Moore. You never really heard Herman Moore speak. You just knew he was dominant. Calvin Johnson was the same way, how dominant he was and how little he spoke. And Larry Fitzgerald was always a guy you went to in crucial situations, big-time moments, and he was always there to answer the call. So when you see him just consistently do this year in, year out, and sometimes, the other receiver goes away and plays somewhere else, but you still have to worry about Larry Fitzgerald, and he was still dominant. And those yards that he put up was the quietest 17,000 yards that you've seen in NFL history, and is right there and showing you how great he was, because you see who's atop that list, and you know what he did in a loud manner with the teams he played on. And the fact that Larry Fitzgerald was able to do this in Arizona, got to a Super Bowl, probably should have won it if it wasn't for one of the best passes we've seen in football history. Larry Fitzgerald definitely deserves this. He also deserves that Heisman Trophy that I brought up as well.
No such thing as a 50-50 ball. When that ball was in the air,
no.
The body control of Larry Fitzgerald is the way I remember that talent from some years ago. All right. We were going to dance around it. We were going to celebrate. We were going to give these guys their flowers. But the conversation in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the year 2026, unfortunately, is also about an omission. The greatest head coach in the history of the NFL, Bill Belichick, left off of this enshrinement. He will no doubt in the future see his bust in Canton someday, but will not have that distinction of first ballot. We've heard everybody throughout the week talk about why the vote may have happened. You know he's going to get in, trying to get others in the way that coach voting is set up. How do you process this week's worth of news and maybe this moment coming to pass without Bill Belichick's name being called?
Here's the thing, Joe, and it's funny how when we look at who got in, there's still some essence of Bill Belichick, because you got Adam Vinatieri in there who was coaching those teams. It was Bill Belichick, right? And so I feel like the voters say this blanket statement, and on his face, it makes sense in some sense of, yeah, he'll get in eventually. But this is my biggest gripe with the voting process, Joe. And I think we talked about this before, where you got to give people the flowers while they can still spell them. Tomorrow is never promised. Just when you thought, a guy should have been in, or he's not in. Let's say, for instance, Kenny Stabler was supposed to get in for a long time. He passes away. The next year they put him in. We saw this with Ken Riley, outstanding defensive back for the Cincinnati Bengals from Florida A&M. Long time should have been in. He passes away. The next year they put him in. And so we've seen this now, guys that are still waiting to get in that should have been in a long time ago. You look at a guy that just passed away this year in Jim Marshall. I mean, longevity in and of itself is a skill. So I get the premise of, well, he'll get in soon, but we don't know what can happen tomorrow. That's why you got to take care of people while they are today. He has earned that right. He should have been in first ballot, because at the end of the day, we don't realize how fragile time is. I hate to get morbid, but that's where we are right now. When you talk about guys that should have been in, or he could wait, he'll get in eventually. Man, get him in now while he can still enjoy it and appreciate it, especially if he's going in with the player. Because the other fallacy of this whole thing, nobody from the senior committee got in. They left everybody out. L.C. Greenwood didn't get in. Ken Anderson didn't get in, nor did Bill Belichick. So it's all a farce, in my opinion. They have to figure out a way to unclog this log jam and get guys in while they're still here to appreciate the honor.
Yeah, I think also notable is the moment we will not get. It's customary that on Super Bowl Sunday, those headed into the Hall of Fame are honored at some point. Could you see Bill Belichick looking across at Mike Vrabel, watching what he once created reinvent itself, and they're on a Super Bowl stage? We will not see that. We will someday see Bill Belichick in the Hall of Fame, but that doesn't happen this year. One final one for here, Emery, because it's a conversation we've often had in green rooms and other settings as well. The question was, is Eli first ballot? Then the question becomes, is Eli getting in? And as each year passes, that question gets a little bit louder. Another year, no Eli. What does it mean?
It means that it's getting tougher to get in if you're not a legitimate first ballot lock, so to speak, because when you think about Eli's career, he has all of these statistics, but the one that's in the middle, buried in that, is that 500 record as a starter. Yes,